Welcome to Selfish Confidence, a place where we can connect and be real about how hard it is to be your damn self. My name is Jess, and my goal is to help you build confidence and belief in yourself to live any life path you want, even if it's unconventional. It's time to flip off societal pressures and connect with women who've also felt on the outside by their life choices. We're here to encourage you to grab the mic and speak your truth. I know it can be scary, but we're in this together. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Selfish Confidence Podcast. It is an exciting day over here, and I know I say that every week, but we have Ebony here, and there's some really exciting things coming up for both Ebony and I in the future, and today we're going to highlight some of that. But welcome, Ebony. I'm so excited that you're here.
I am too. Oh my gosh, yeah. I'm so hyped.
Yeah, so it's just going to be fun to be able to sit down and to really learn more about you and your story before we go into a really cool next chapter that we have that we'll talk a little bit about. But can you tell us a little about you, Ebony, and where your story got started?
Yeah. So I'm Ebony, obviously. So I think I'm just gonna, like Keisha gave me the feedback last week, just gonna rip the Band-Aid off and just go with it.
She said go for it, so.
So starting off, and this is really, when I even think about it, it is truly where my story started, because before then I was stuck in this survival mode every single day of my life, every second, honestly, if I'm being honest. I grew up in an abusive childhood. And I think that for me, the world didn't really open up until I escaped that. And for me, that was college. And even then, I still didn't escape it because I still didn't know who I was. I didn't really have a true childhood, if you think about it in terms of that. I didn't feel safe a lot of the time. And so when I got to college, I kind of was still, although I was free, I was still stuck in that survivor mode of just every day doing kind of this, what I thought I needed to do or what I should be doing, kind of watching what everyone else was doing. I will say, like, during that time, I didn't have a lot of sense of self or identity. And that's tough when you're going from a situation like that and being thrown into college where you're out on your own and now suddenly you're an adult. There's no more childhood, right? And that time period for me was just very, I don't want to say it was a blur, but it feels like it because it felt like my life was in chunks. It was like, okay, you're in the situation, you're now free, trying to figure it out on your own, not doing a great job of it, but trying. And then during that time, actually meeting my husband and us starting to build this life together and eventually becoming a mom and realizing that I still hadn't dealt with anything that I had gone through. For me, it was like eye-opening, like, okay, you've got to deal with that. You can't pretend that it didn't happen because it did. And it had started to kind of mold who I was without me even really knowing. Like, I thought, because I was free, I'm in control now. I'm doing my thing. I'm an adult. We can put that in the past. It didn't happen. We're good. This is where life starts. And it was not. It's definitely not. I was still very much struggling, especially as becoming a mom, getting stuck in that survivor mode again, because newborn life is wild. It kind of was like a light bulb for me. I was like, okay, you can't keep doing this. And yeah, that, as far as beginning, that's kind of where my story started, of the realization that I was stuck.
That's a huge beginning. Yeah. Yeah. And I can picture, like, even as you say, like, your story in chunks, like, I can see the fog, like, through each of the pieces, and really just you moving through that would be so difficult. How did you make this change to start working on yourself, to start seeing yourself in a different light, where you were a new mom and still trying to, release some of the trauma that was stuck in your body? Like, how did you take that step into change or even acceptance, right?
I think it starts with acceptance, because for a while I went through life just kind of pretending it didn't happen. when I think about who knew at the time, like eventually I did tell my mom what had happened to me. My husband knew, but a lot of other people didn't know. They just knew that Ebony that I was projecting, right? So I started to feel like, not that I was living two different lives, but I started to feel like people that I wanted to know me didn't know me. And so it felt kind of like I was living kind of like a double life. People were looking at me like, oh my gosh, you're so inspiring. You just had a baby, you're starting this postpartum journey, you're graduating while pregnant, all these things. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not all of my story. I was in my head, I kept saying, if you only knew what I had gone through to get here.
Was that a feeling that you would think that people would respect you more if they only knew what you had gone through, or they would respect you less if they only knew what you had gone through?
I don't think it's either of those. So for me, it wasn't that
Ooh.
I would expect them to respect me more or less, but I wanted them more so to see me as not superhuman, like this perfect image that was like, yes, that is what I should do with my life. I wanted them to see that no matter what you've gone through, it doesn't have to be as traumatic as what I went through, right? But there is another side to it. Like there is beauty after something that you go through that is traumatic and gets you in that survivor mode and gets you stuck, where you feel like you can't, you're like, what am I doing here? And so I wanted to not so much as get respect, but more so give people permission.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it too. What got you to the point where you're finally courageous and you're just like, okay, I shouldn't say finally courageous. You've been courageous the whole time, but you stepped into sharing it, and even just recently sharing it in a really big way. What got you to just be like, okay, the world can know now?
Yeah. Oof. Like, of course, there was this very pivotal moment at EmpowerHer Live last year, but I feel like there were kind of many steps before that where I kept trying to step into being more authentic and figuring out what that meant for me. Because, like I said, I felt like I didn't have an identity once I was free. Like, I was in this, you just got to survive state for so long. And then suddenly I'm like trying to also figure out adulthood and just kind of like, okay, we got this. We just got to keep going, do what everybody else is doing. Just look at what everyone else is doing as a model. And so you're not really learning.
Yeah. If I do that, right? Do that, what everyone else is doing,
Exactly.
I am going to be good. Like, the world is going to be like,
Exactly.
she good.
And that was not the way. So where there were these many moments, I think leading up to like, I guess the big breakthrough year, I want to say, because it was a one event, the big breakthrough year where I was just like, you know what? Like, yes, this is a part of my story, but there is like a way to share it that doesn't like bring up feelings for myself, because obviously I'm still in a healing journey, but also doesn't trigger anything for someone else. More so just shows them, hey, you can do this. Like you can get out of that survivor mode.
Was the first place that you shared it on your podcast?
Actually, no, because I think before I launched, um, that's a weird question because I feel like that's another one where I slowly built up to telling the people that were important to me, like telling my mom, telling my now husband, boyfriend at the time, what had happened to me. Gosh, I'm gonna get emotional.
But on that more like that public
Publicly,
sense. And emotions are safe
yes.
here. If you want to get emotional, by all means, I want you to know that they're welcome and loved and safe here. So
The first time I shared it publicly was when I got back from EmpowerHer Live, and I went live on my stories, and which was very vulnerable because I was like, oh, you're about to do this. This is, yeah, lots of sweaty feelings. But I was like, if you don't do it, um, you're going to keep wondering, like, what if, or you're going to keep slowly sharing, but that's not what needed to happen. Because I think I needed the space that I'm in now, I needed people to see all of me, and not all of me in the sense of like everything, but I needed them to kind of see the full journey or start to see.
Yeah. I feel like as soon as you said that you went live right after the event, I like felt it in my whole body because, woo,
Yeah.
like, let's talk about that event. So let's talk about Empower Her. Ebony and I both went to this big event. It was in Phoenix, Arizona last year with 500 women, and it was focused around just like growth and empowering yourself and, shining through the beginning and all of those pieces in your journey. And I remember seeing you there. I wanted to go up and talk to you, but I was scared. That seems to be a recurring theme on this podcast as I interview people, telling them that I was scared to say hi to them. But just the usual. And it was a crazy life-changing event, and especially for you. So can you share with everyone what your experience was at that event last year and what made you step into becoming this like version of Ebony that you've been shining so brightly in?
So I think going into the event, it was one of my first types of events to go to. I think before that, I had gone to like a Beachbody summit, but this was more so focused on personal development. And so this was like the first one. I didn't know what to expect. So I went in like open arms, open heart, and just like, all right, we're just gonna soak in whatever. But I didn't expect the amount of like looking inward that happened. And that came from like doing the breath work and Amber Lilystrom's. Oh my gosh, that one like broke me open. That was like the egg cracking. It was like,
I know,
wow,
powerful.
okay,
Yeah.
like you need to share this part of your story. Because I think during like those visualizations and those exercises, I started to kind of unravel what my purpose was fully. Like I had always known that I wanted to help people in some way. And that started with like health and fitness because that's where I was in my journey, right? But then I realized it was bigger than that, that I had not only experienced something traumatic, but I had survived it and was now thriving. And people needed to see that whole journey so that they could understand that it was possible. And so, yeah, a lot of the exercises during that were me looking inward and kind of realizing how my story could actually help people, not in just a small way, but like a big, transformative, powerful way.
Yeah. And did you know anyone when you went to the event? Like, were you walking into the room totally alone? Did you know some people?
So I started off going just by myself. So I was just gonna go by myself, but then trying to think three other coaches that I was pretty close with. They were on my team. They also ended up coming and we ended up sharing a room. So then I had people that, I did know, but then I also met so so many other people that were like, where have you been all my life? Like what?
Yeah.
Yeah, it felt like a lot of those moments.
Yeah. It's a very welcoming community. Like, even knowing not many people, you walked away making friends. There was one point where I was having lunch with some girlfriends. There was a girl eating all alone. And I said, girl, come sit with us. And she's like, that's not normal, right? And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, it's normal for me. And she's like, no, I go to events like this all the time. It is not normal that someone would invite you over to come sit at their table just because they're eating alone. And it kind of clicked for me, like, this place is different. Like, these people are different, and it's such a welcoming and loving community that even if you were going alone, like, you would make friends.
Yeah, 100%. You are not walking away from the event without someone in your corner.
Yeah, which is so beautiful, right? What would you say to Ebony at the event last year, even just like a week before she would have gone? If you could talk to her, what would you say to her right now?
I'll probably just tell her it's not what you're expecting, maybe. And just to be ready to embrace like whatever comes out of it. Because like I say, I went in with no expectations, but clearly I'm human. Obviously, I was like, okay, yeah, the speakers are gonna motivate me. Yes, I'm gonna walk away
Oh,
with a fire in the belly, but I walked away with so much more than that. And so I would just tell her to just be ready to embrace the transformation because it's gonna happen and you're not necessarily gonna be ready for it, but it's happening anyway.
yeah. Oh, I love that. Be ready. Yeah. I always say in my head too, like, be open and allow myself to be seen. I walked into that event very afraid just afraid of all the people and all of the energy and if I could handle it. And there was a lot of fear walking into that event. And I walked away feeling way more free. And going into this next event, I'm less fearful. There's obviously always, like, I have anxiety. There's always going to be some fear, but I'm a lot less fearful walking into it, except there's something really, really big happening at this next event, which there's some fear there. So, Ebony, do you want to tell everyone what's going on at the next EmpowerHer?
Yeah. So me and Jess and 3 other amazing women who some of them also
named
Jess, which I think is hilarious. But we are going to be speaking on a panel live at the next event. And I am still in disbelief. Like, I'm still like, okay, pinch me. But it's really happening.
It's really happening. Like, do you remember the moment when you saw your name as the person who was chosen to do this panel?
Oh, yeah.
How did you feel?
I will never forget the moment because I was getting my hair done. It was definitely a day like this. I usually, if I'm working from home and I have space at lunchtime, sometimes I'll go to my stylist and be like, help me out, that TLC in the middle of the day. And so I'm checking my phone, just going through Instagram, and I see 2 notifications that I was tagged in something. And I had known that Jackie and Keisha were going to announce. They said that they were going to announce at some point early on in the week, but I was still kind of like out of sight, out of mind. I'll look on the Facebook later and see who it was. But once I saw that they had tagged me, I was like, no way. So initially, I didn't even look at the post. I just closed the app and I was like, no, that can't be it.
You didn't say anything out loud, like at your hair appointment? You just like close the app. You're like, no.
I just closed the app and I was like, nope. Nope. And then I open it back up and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is happening. And I see my face with this group of this panel group. And I'm just like, oh, okay, this is happening.
This is for real.
You gotta imagine like the amount of applications that everyone must have submitted. I'm just like, what? Okay, this is happening. This is good, but this is happening.
It was like utter disbelief for a little bit. And even just last week we had a group, or maybe it was this week. No, it was last week. We had a group call about like what we'd be focusing on. And like even just being on that call, you're just like, this is really happening. Like Keisha was so open about knowing your story so deeply and wanting you to share on that. And it's just like, okay, great.
Yeah. Oh, she gave me the tough love. She gave me the tough love because it's funny. Last year when I did submit my application, I did openly talk about what I had gone through. And this year I focused on like the good things, right? I talked about like my hikes and my podcast. Yay, look at all this awesome stuff that happened after the last event. And Keisha calls me out. She's like, girl, you kind of like in my head, like as she was talking, I kept hearing myself. I was like, girl, you're doing it again. You're diminishing your story, you're dimming your light so that things are more comfortable. But like that's not what people need. Like they need to hear all of it, not in a way that's going to make them go like, oh man, that's like the worst, but in a way that kind of empowers them and shows them and gives them belief.
And there's people in that room who need to hear that and need to see that side of you. And as scary as it is, like, I know you're going to kill it. And I'm just so excited to see it happen, just to like be a part of it with you. And I don't know, just that I get to sit beside you and be there is just like going to be such the coolest gift. Like countdown is on. I think it's like 66 days or something. So countdown is on. I have another question for you, just real quick before we wrap this up. When it comes to just the life lessons that you've learned throughout your whole life, not even just in the last year, but in your whole life, what's the biggest one that you feel you've like taken away and put in your pocket and just reflect on the most frequently?
And this goes like not only for me, myself, but me as a mother, as I'm teaching my girls about how being unique as we all are as humans, is such a beautiful thing. And to embrace that, to embrace your authenticity, your uniqueness, the weird, quirky things that like make you you, just embrace those. And every single time you choose to do that, you will not only learn more of yourself, but you'll know who you are every single day. So that's yeah, that's one of my like big life lessons. Even as I teach my girls, I'm always telling them like, no, girl, sing as loud as you want, dance as much as you want. Like we have dance parties often and it's hilarious because they're moving their little bodies however they feels good. And I want them to know that of course they're going to come across judgment in the world and not to allow that to diminish their light. And so yeah, embracing authenticity and uniqueness is huge for me.
Oh, I love that so much. Yeah. And this podcast is all about embracing your weird and being yourself and stepping into anything if it's unconventional for you, this different life path. And I really love that aligns right with that. So thank you so much, Ebony, for sharing that. And I actually can picture your girls dancing with you, and it's just like the most beautiful visual. And I can only imagine the dark season that you went through being so hard, but that making you a better mom now and making you really see things in a different light. And those girls are so lucky to have you as their mom. Like, such a beautiful gift. Can you tell our listeners, Ebony, where people can find you online and what's the name of your podcast and all of those pieces?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me. My personal page, of course, is my name, Ebony Lynn Flemming. And then the podcast name, Thrive Like a Mother. Same. Or Instagram, thrive like a mother.podcast.
And where are you located? Because you do events in person too, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have a hike coming up now on September 2nd. Second one, I'm very excited.
So awesome.
I branded it Hike Like a Mother because why not?
I love it.
So yeah, I do in-person events and I'm planning to continue just growing that. But think of it just as like a group empowerment coaching session with views. Like it's
awesome.
Perfect.
And where is it located?
Georgia. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay, perfect. So if you're in Georgia, go check out Ebony. I wish I was there. Even though I'm not a mom, could I come on the hike?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, sweet. That sounds so much fun. I have a couple questions that I ask every guest that comes on the podcast. You ready? Okay. What's your favorite compliment to receive?
Mine is, it's funny. I don't know if it's a compliment or not, or if it's like just wow. But whenever anyone sees me in person for the first time and maybe they haven't, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you were so tall.
You are super tall.
Like my favorite thing is like my legs. I have long legs and I'm embracing them.
I love that so much. Yeah, you are tall. So you like when people come up to you and they're like, wow, you're really tall. Okay, sweet.
Yeah, and I'm like, yes, I am in my heels.
Yes, I love that. Okay, when I see you in September, I'm coming in for a big hug and I'm complimenting you on your beautiful height. What is your favorite thing to do to boost your mood when you're feeling grumpy?
Gosh. So there's two modes. I will say one of my biggest things is music. So it depends on which type of grumpy mood I'm in. I guess if I'm grumpy because of something that happened or I'm just grumpy, that will help me choose what type of music to listen to. So sometimes I will put on worship music if it's someone that has made me grumpy or some situation. And then if I'm just like in a weird, funky mood, then I'll put on some different type of music. Like I might put on Beyonce's album or Janae Aiko. Like that's, yeah. I'm all over the place when it comes to music. So it depends, like I said, on which type of grumpy.
Oh, I love that. I think variety is good, right? Because you got to know for the mood what you want to play. So I love it. Do you have a song or a quote that boosts your confidence?
I'm going to go to my journal because I have a quote.
Give it to me.
And it's where I outline all my podcasts. So, so this is by Glennon Doyle. Absolutely adore her. But it says, brave means living from the inside out. Brave means in every uncertain moment, turning inward, feeling for the knowing, and speaking it out loud. That's like my go-to quote to remember my authenticity, remember to be brave, and just remember to accept myself like as I am.
I love it. Thank you so much, Ebony, for being here, for sharing your truth and being real with us today. You are such a beautiful light in this world.
Yes, thank you for having me.
If you loved this episode with Ebony today and you're like, okay, I need to get in that room. What are you talking about? What's this Empower Her? Where's the info? What do I need to know? I'm going to put all the information for you in the show notes where you're able to check out the details, the dates. It's September 22nd to 24th in Denver, Colorado. And you can use the code Jess to get $50 off your ticket. And this will be up until the day of the event. If you're like, okay, I need this last minute, or I'm so ready, I'm so there. Whenever you decide to get your ticket and join us and come see us speak on the panel, grab your ticket and use the code Jess for $50 off in order to save a little bit of money and enjoy a really empowering weekend that will totally transform your life. If you lean into it and you be open and you be ready for that transformation, just like Ebony talked about, it's going to happen and you are not going to want to miss it. So check out the show notes for all the information and don't forget to use code Jess to get $50 off your ticket. What's up, sis? I am so glad we could hang out today. If you love this episode, send it to a friend or share it on your social media and tag me so I can personally thank you for helping me sprinkle some confidence in the world. And don't forget, you are magic. Let's show the world your shine.